Greetings everyone, my name is Steele and welcome back to Buried. On our last adventure, we came across a woman named Amy who's a scientist that works within this facility. We then traveled to level 3 where we discovered sinister creatures that are now roaming around the halls due to a failed experiment during the power outage. Now we are going to pick things up with chapter 4. The ride up the elevator is tense. I take a series of deep breaths, doing everything I can to stay in control. Amy has gotten back to her feet, but her head is pressed against the elevator wall as she suppresses a series of sobs. I find myself trying to remember the way those creatures looked, but my mind seems to shudder at the effort. I have seen something that is an impossibility, a mockery of what I know is real. This fills me with a terror that dwarfs anything else I have felt since discovering the facility. I try to focus my mind on something else and remember Marcus's threats. I wonder if we'll see Marcus again, I say, mostly to myself. Do you think Marcus got away from those things? Amy asks. Probably. I sure as hell hope not. Me too, she says, looking at the ground, her arms folded. So, I say, how did you end up here? She gives a nervous chuckle and shrugs. I used to work with the Pentagon. It was some pretty upper echelon stuff that I still can't discuss. I assume this place is even more upper echelon, I said. This place isn't even on the scale, she answers. My other job was a cakewalk compared to this. Then why stay, I ask. Because the money is ridiculous. I have a 13-year-old daughter already talking about Harvard. You do the math. Harvard, huh? That's ambitious. Any other kids? No, just the one. Her dad split on us when she was 3. I never remarried, so no siblings for her. I may have only gotten one, but the one I got is amazing. Amy pauses before continuing softly. What if I never see? Her voice breaks off, the words too terrible to say, her eyes filled with tears. The elevator comes to a stop, the slight ding of an interrupting the moment. Amy hastily wipes her eyes, and we waste no time in getting back inside the command center. I ready the rifle, suddenly certain that there are more of those creatures waiting for us in the hallway of the second level. But the way is clear, allowing us to haul ass at the command center. Once again, I find myself staring at the screen that shows my ruined work site. Okay, Amy says, typing commands rapidly. It can't be that hard. I keep peeking over my shoulder, and my senses feeling as if the monsters are sneaking up on us mere inches away. I then think of Dennis and wonder how he is faring back on level 3. Is he safe? I look back to the screens and see that Amy has finally found what she is looking for. A prompt on the screen says, override of hangar doors and all level 3 locks require clearance code. Amy types in a number with shaky fingers and the screen goes black for a moment. The moment the words override confirmed come up on the screen, Amy jumps up from the chair and heads out for the room. We have to be quick, she says. We have exactly 20 minutes to open those hangar doors. Let's get moving. I follow her out of the command center and bound back down the hallway towards the same elevator that brought us here. Amy punches the elevator button and the doors slide open. We're taking the same elevator back to the biochem room? I ask. Those creatures are still down there. It's the only way back down, she says. The other way is blocked by those hydraulic doors we pulled. Hopefully the creatures left. Hopefully. Neither of us say anything else as we share a look of immense dread. We step back into the elevator and head back down to the biochem room on level 3. As the elevator doors open, we peer out, looking to see if the creatures are still in the area. But it's all clear. When Amy looks to me, her eyes are clear and strong. Marcus wasn't entirely wrong, Amy says as we start walking back towards the hangar doors. About what? I ask. About how I am partially to blame for this. You're right, you are. Why would you be to blame? Now, this is the thing. The only reason she is to blame is by pure association. She wasn't the one that was actually having a hand in the experiment that happened to fail. She just gets the reports of the results of said experiment. So, yes, again, by association, she is to blame, but not entirely on her. Some of the things we do here, it's scary. We should have known that one day something like this would happen. Everyone here with knowledge of what goes on in level 3 is to blame, she says. It's a highly advanced research facility, I say, doing amazing but risky stuff. So yeah, you're partially to blame by just working here, but I can understand the dedication. So why don't you tell me a bit more about what does go on in level 3, I ask. Are you familiar with the Large Hadron Collider over in Switzerland? I've heard the phrase, but that's about it, I say. It's a powerful particle accelerator, she explains. Right now, they're using it to try and create what's called dark matter. It's theorized that this dark matter actually makes up the majority of the universe, but parts of the universe very different from ours. My guess is the people at the LHC will probably create their first dark matter particle in about 2018 or 2019. Here in this facility, we were able to create one almost 10 years ago. It was the key to our research. Does this have something to do with other things? What does this matter do? Yeah, let's ask if this sort of experimentation has to do with those things roaming about. Well, we still don't know all there is about dark matter or other matter we have yet to identify. These creatures could be made of it, or maybe they are some even more exotic matter. We just don't know. If dark matter is responsible, then there are no real answers to have. I scratch my head. So you're saying this dark matter helps with, what, opening up other dimensions or something? That's the theory, she says. During the point-to-point transfer, the subjects are gone for about 3 to 6 seconds. There's no way to see or measure their presence, but they exist somewhere. From what we can tell, they exist in a kind of void. What is that place like? Have you done this with people? We have sent human subjects through. Almost all of them have returned successfully. I make an involuntary grimace. Almost? There was one man, Dr. Kana, who didn't return. We don't know where, she trails off, taking a moment to collect herself. Sorry I asked, I say, feeling my mind start to bend inward again. Yeah, mine kind of is too, if you can't tell by my reading. As we continue to walk between the silos, we walk past the area where we left Marcus behind. But he's long gone. Maybe we found a way out. I realize that we are walking very close together between the silos, perhaps trying to create the illusion of safety. We reach the exit connecting to the hangar doors, where Dennis hopefully still is. My guts clench and my heart hammers in my chest as we open the door and walk through. I lift the rifle up, but at first it seems like there is nothing waiting for us, and that's when I see the glowing, hulking shape to my left closing in fast. That's not good. The creature is about 10 feet away and coming in quickly, so I do the first thing that comes to mind. I drop to the ground, making myself a smaller target, and raise the rifle. I'm not sure if I should just unload on the bastard or try to be choosy with my shots and weaken it, or at least slow it down. Shoot to weaken, shoot to kill. Let's say shoot to weaken, because we asked Amy earlier if we're able to kill these things, and she says she doesn't know. So let's not waste the ammunition. My shot causes the entire Milky Way frame to jerk to the floor. It flounders, its ghost-like tentacles writhing with rage as it cries out at me. It seems to turn and jerk away, parts of it appearing and disappearing every few feet. It moves down the hall and out of sight. I look quickly around for others, but there is only Amy. She looks at where the monster went with wide eyes. Her face is pale, and I wonder if, like me, she is able to feel her mind trying to retreat. Come on, I say, let's find Dennis and get through these hangar doors. Amy glances at her watch and nods. We're already down to 6 minutes. We turn towards the hangar doors, and I'm a little disgusted with myself because the bloody scene that had so shocked me before now seems mild. Amy goes to work on the computer console on the side of the doors. She starts punching in keys before saying, "This is going to take some time." "I thought you already unlocked it," I ask. "I did," she says, "but for this door, there's still security permissions I need to hack. Marcus would have known how to do this." She trails off, and I decide to let her work. Suddenly, something slams into me. I feel my feet leave the floor, and I am literally thrown across the concrete. I look up in time to see one of the creatures. It's apparently in no hurry to attack me again, focusing on Amy instead. She's not armed. I need to come up with a plan to get this thing away from her so she can focus on getting the door open. It raises one of its flickering appendages, making me certain that part of its makeup is pure light and energy. I could easily take a shot with my rifle, but my mind again goes on how much remaining ammo I have. The only other thing I can think of is to get it to chase me and lead it away from this room, somewhere. We got a point, let's distract it and run. We have to be very conservative with our ammo. Hey, I yell, right here, come get me. I'm the one that shot your buddy. It turns to me and I am again faced with staring at something that has no business in this world, in this reality. Its body gives off a sort of glow around the central part, a bulbous core that is branched off into two humps, very much like a spider. Again, I sense that this visual information is not accurate, but it's the best my simple mind can do to make sense of this impossible creature. It starts lurching towards me and lets out a shriek of agony that makes my ears feel like they'll explode. Now that I'm sure it's coming after me, I take off running and head into another hallway we haven't been down. I find myself in an industrial-looking area and am pleased to find that the monster is following me through. The room seems to be an assortment of old pipes and tanks. I assume some of them run further down into other areas of the facility. With the creature on my tail, I dash into the maze of metal, hoping to lose it. It's definitely having a harder time squeezing through than I am, and that slows it down. Of course, the room's not a cage of any kind. The thing is still heading towards me, shredding through the pipes as it rages. I notice that sometimes it is breaking the steel girders, but other times it seems like it's somehow merging or changing them. Pipes that were separate are now connected together in a way that makes my head hurt. I finally get a good amount of distance between myself and the creature. I think it's lost at my trail. I need to get back to those hangar doors. There's not much time before they close shut. But if I make a sound, that creature would be on my heels again. Hide and escape quietly. Run as fast as you can. Nope, we are sticking to our guns and remaining as quiet as the grave. I take care to stay silent, twisting myself through some more pipes and making my way back towards the door I entered through. The creature doesn't seem to pick up on this. I see it's glowing back as I come around. It lets out a static scream that makes my insides feel like jelly. But I don't even look back. I slide quietly through the rusted obstacle course and tiptoe back to the hangar doors. We are like a ninja. I burst back into the large room and see Amy still working on the computer terminal by the hangar doors. You okay? I ask Amy. I can clearly see her battling for control of her faculties. Steel determination wins out and she gives a grim nod. Any sign of where Dennis went? I ask, hoping she hasn't noticed his body somewhere. No, she replies. It's then that I realize that I have no idea how many rounds I have remaining in the rifle. This isn't a model I'm familiar with. Outside of some deer hunting, I'm not much of an expert on firearms. Still, I am able to locate the chamber easily and see that there are 4 rounds left. Not great, but it could be worse. How are we on time? I ask her. 2 minutes. I'm going as fast as I can, she says. Amy does her best to focus on the keyboard, but there's still no sign of Dennis. Before I have time to look around, a screeching sound erupts from the other end of the room. I bring the rifle up in a shooter's stance and turn around. With the hangar doors right behind me, no sign of Dennis, and a closing window of time, I have to be confident. Yet when 2 monsters come around the corner, my body wants to shut down. The appendages seem to jump in time and space, reaching out for a split second, independent of the body, and then disappearing back to where they came from. It turns and screeches at me, its glowing tentacles snaking out of its body, my knees trembling uncontrollably. Behind me, Amy shrieks. I feel myself losing control, my mind sliding into the abyss of insanity. I pull myself back from the brink. I've got to stay in control. Turn away or shoot them. I'm gonna say, since they're right on top of us, let's shoot them. I think now is the time. I step away from Amy and the hangar doors and towards the monsters, ready to defend her. I ready my rifle, but the creature wastes no time. It makes that jerky motion towards me, and there's a sharp pain in my chest as it collides with me. Or through me, it's hard to tell. My instinct is to try to grapple or hold this thing down. Then I realize I don't even know if that will work. Try to get away, try to grab the creature. Since it's being described as a creature made of light, and all the other victims that have unfortunately come across its path have been melted or fused within its surroundings, I think trying to grab this thing would be a very bad idea, so let's just try to get away. I figured I'd rather not try to learn more about the physical nature of this thing right now. I tuck and roll away from it, then stand up to face it. With a scream of defiance, I raise the rifle and put a round in its core. The shot lands dead center, and the light inside of it flickers almost violently. It falls back against the wall, issuing a hiss of its telltale static noise. It then jerks away and retreats, at least for now. Another terror appears as if out of nowhere, screaming at me like with its high-pitched whine. It bounds forward, charging in its strange, spastic way. I aim the rifle, intending to take this one in the core too. I take several shots, but it's still coming at me. As it slams into me, I realize that I only have one bullet left. On contact, the wind is knocked out of my lungs and the back of my head strikes the floor. But neither of these things is as alarming as the fact that this beast is on top of me. Its exterior is like seashell that has been pounded by the surf for so long that it has lost all edges and ridges. But the grip it tries to capture me with is pure violence. I feel those light-soaked appendages start to wrap around me. I raise the rifle, knowing I still have one shot left. The weight of the monster is erratic. One moment I feel weightless, another I feel like I am going to be crushed. I push upwards with the rifle to aim, but it is overpowering me. I'm not sure I'd be able to get an effective shot off. I see the core of its body, a spider-like shape connected to the rest of it by thin white strings of tissue. I know I'll be dead within seconds unless I can manage a shot, but I don't know where to aim. This thing has already survived for so long. Well, I'm guessing that weird connected tissue is its membrane or something of the like. But since my only options are to shoot for the center and shoot for the tentacles, let's just shoot for the core, see if that does anything. The creature is seconds away from tearing into my shoulder. I have to stop it now. I grunt as I try to angle the rifle in the direction of the beast's formless core. The appendages begin tugging down on the barrel, and it's at the moment I pull the trigger, unleashing my final shot. Thank God I saved this bullet earlier. The shot aggravates it enough to win me some breathing room. I've saved my shoulder, but this thing's still alive and kicking. But then I see the creature extend its tentacles in a violent whip-like motion away from me while it makes that static screeching sound. The creature disappears in the thin air and reappears a few feet away from me, retreating. With a shudder and a cry of desperation, I get to my feet just in time to see the monster head in the direction of the biochem room. Amy looks over at me from her terminal at the hangar doors, looking petrified. I manage to help myself up when I see another figure nearing us. But to my relief, I realize it's a human figure, Dennis, with a gun. "You okay, boss?" he asks, but his eyes aren't on me. They are looking to the creature, trying to understand exactly what he has just seen. "About 15 minutes ago, I hear the door to that maintenance room unlock," Dennis says, pointing to the room I tried to bust my way into earlier. "Ah," Amy says, "when I did the override up in the command center, it unlocked all small doors down here, including that maintenance room. I went inside there and hid," Dennis continues, "and while I was waiting for you to come back, I found a massive trunk. There were a few guns in it, so I grabbed this one," he says, patting his shotgun. "I'm glad you're safe, Dennis. I'm glad you found some weapons. I am glad you are safe, brother." "Thanks, boss," he says. "Me too." She doesn't break eye contact with the panel. "Almost done," she replies. Suddenly, without warning, a shot ricochets off the wall behind Amy's head. Startled, we look around, confused. Did Dennis's gun go off? When another shot blasts near us again, we all drop to the floor. I look around, wondering who or what could possibly be shooting at us. Those creatures don't do anything that sounds remotely like gunfire. And then I see him. Marcus. I should have killed him when I had the chance. He has a rifle and is walking towards us, an insane look in his eyes. "You all deserve to die," he screams, unleashing another round that I hear whiz by my head. Dennis doesn't hesitate. He stands up and shoots at Marcus, causing him to retreat. "How much longer, Amy? Open that damn door. How much longer, Amy? Come on, hustle, hustle." "Almost there," she says quietly. She makes a few final key presses and says, "Done." The doors open with the noise of hydraulics and a whoosh of air. With Marcus pinned down by Dennis's gunfire, we start moving towards the door. At that moment, another creature jerks into existence around the corner between us and Marcus. "Shit," Marcus says, and starts unloading into it. But then he learns the same lesson we did. This only slows the creatures down. Marcus gives us one last look and then turns and runs off in another direction. Dennis, Amy, and I climb up and head through the doors, moving on nothing more than adrenaline. I see her look longingly at the maintenance room Dennis took the shotgun from. "You get into the hangar," Dennis says. "I'll get some more firepower." Satisfied with the plan, Amy heads through the door. We scramble inside, finally inside the hangar. Dennis approaches from behind, holding several guns and looking like a kid who grabbed an armful of Halloween candy. Amy reaches out for a 9mm with one hand. Dennis turns to me and holds out a shotgun and a handgun for me to choose. Both look deadly. The shotgun looks powerful, but the handgun will probably be more precise. Take the shotgun, take the handgun. No, we're going to take the handgun. I'd rather go with full precision than overall power here. You took the handgun. I select the handgun and am comforted by the way it seems to fit perfectly in my shaky hand. There are more creatures coming, as many as a dozen. They are floating down the hall quickly, their tentacles slithering. The way their light seems to mingle together is almost beautiful. Close the door, I yell at Amy. She dashes to another terminal mounted on the inside of the hangar doors and tries desperately to close them. It's not working, she says with tears in her eyes. This terminal is disabled. Dennis looks through the open doors, readying himself to shoot the first creature that nears him. Should we try to slow a few down or just run for it? He asks, his gun at the ready. Fire away, let's run for it. No, let's just book it. Let's try it. We don't know how much ammo we have altogether, so let's save what we can until we absolutely need it. Good idea, says Amy. With that, we turn around and sprint out onto the hangar floor. This is getting intense. I love it. The room is enormous, so large that to call it a room seems silly. A large concrete floor stretches out below an expansive, lofting ceiling. The area is mostly empty, except for one side which has rows and rows of metal barrels. Back in the far wall is a lit area that seems to expose more rooms, labs, and machinery. Also in the rear of the hangar, I can see some kind of chamber or control center. Dennis and I follow Amy across the hangar floor. Behind us, a series of rough, slithering sounds tells us that the creatures have made their way into the hangar. From somewhere up ahead, a loud buzzing noise sounds out. It reminds me of the slight buzzing noise I heard in the forest, a noise that got me into all this trouble in the first place. I look ahead and see that in the far back of the hangar, a bright red light is flashing. There is a small hatch or door below the light. That hatch is open and I can see a shape inside it. I can barely make out the figure of a man standing there holding an industrial microphone, and as soon as I see him, I hear his huge amplified voice. It blares down over an intercom system and he sounds pissed. I don't know who the hell you are, he says, but this is a government facility on lockdown and there are protocols to shit. I assume the curse coincides with the exact moment he sees the creatures. They are making their way through the hangar doors. There are maybe 20 feet between us and the creatures. I act instinctively, firing twice as the handgun comes alive in my hands. One shot goes into the core of one monster, causing it to jerk backwards. Another shot slows down another. The accuracy I get with the 9mm is amazing. Amy and Dennis take the cue and start firing as well. The floor becomes littered with a swirling white fluid from the wounded creatures' bodies, but they are not slowing down. The alarm keeps shrieking behind us, and when I turn to see if anything has changed back there, I trip over my feet. I hit the ground hard and in an almost comic fashion, slide several feet across the floor. From the ground, I see that we have managed to turn back 4 of them, but I also see that my estimate of a dozen is off. There are at least 20 of them. Their sick, dim light, sinister and gloomy. Their appendages seem to bind together as they come forward. My only hope of survival is that the man in the far doorway has somehow shuts that hangar doors. That was very oddly written. His voice comes blaring over the intercom again, broken by the booming noise of the gunfire that we are laying down. Run here, towards the isolation chamber. I'm not sure how much time we have. I realize that I can sprint ahead of Amy and Dennis, or I can hang back and give them cover. Let's give them some cover. Go inside where that guy is, I say. I'll make sure we don't have any of those things right on our tails. I'll hold them back for a while. I know it sounds macho, but it also feels like the right thing to do. I have to at least try and give us some kind of chance for escape. So as Amy and Dennis run through the doors, I blast at the next thing that I see moving. All I get for my troubles is that static-like hiss and a high-pitched whistling noise. I'm able to beat them back a bit, forcing them to scatter. Each flicker of light is a small victory. If nothing else, I'm buying Amy and Dennis time. When I'm certain there is nothing more I can do, I turn and run. I hustle, quickly catching up to Dennis and Amy, who stop and turn to provide me with cover fire. There, Amy says, pointing to the small door where the man was standing earlier. The swarm is less than 15 feet away now, so furious that they are pushing through one another to get to us. I raise the handgun and fire, taking my time to aim. I hit one of the spider-like parts of its body. I fire again, this time taking one in the core. I place 2 more rounds into this creature, eventually causing it to move backwards. We are in the middle of the hangar floor now, with the isolation chamber ahead and the monsters behind. Beside me, Dennis also fires. The kick of the gun jolts him, probably a result of him being weakened from the blood loss. His shot lands true, though, causing a jerk in stubble and a flickering of its light. We're almost in, Amy yells, as we get close to the door. We hope will save us. Dash inside, tell Dennis and Amy to go in first. You guys get the hell in first. They seem closer in retrospect of our geographical locations. Get inside, I tell Amy and Dennis, motioning for them to get moving with my gun. I open the door and give Dennis a push toward it. He resists, more eager to try taking down another of the beasts before he makes it to safety, but he eventually gives in. I wait a beat to make sure Amy is inside too. I fire off a few rounds on the creatures that are still heading for us, hoping to slow them down. When Amy and Dennis clear the door, I nearly dash inside, but then I feel something hot seep into my back. Roger, Dennis yells. The pain in my back is so immense that I barely notice the fact that I am being lifted from the floor. I look down and see that one of the creatures is using its floating arms to grab me by my waist, its tentacles wrapping around me. It lifts me into the air as if presenting me as a trophy to its friends. I try to focus, attempting to angle my arm in a way that will allow me to aim the handgun and place a bullet in its body. But it is shaking me violently and its body parts are appearing and disappearing in a way that makes no sense, another oddity of its structure. I can literally do nothing more than hang there like a rag doll, hoping to be saved. As it continues to hoist me up, screeching its approval, Dennis comes back out of the room and fires off a shot. The bullet catches the monster on the other side of its core, sending it backwards and causing it to freeze for a moment. It releases me and I hit the ground, dropping my gun and again finding myself unable to breathe. I feel slightly dizzy, but that fades when I see Dennis is still standing outside of the door. He's firing into the beast like a madman and doesn't see the one to his left coming in along the edge of the wall. Dennis, look out, push him out of the way. I don't know if we can reach him in time, so let's just yell out. Dennis, look out. Hearing my voice, he turns to look directly at me, but this is the opposite of what he needs to do. Behind him, the creature glides up, shaking back and forth in space as it moves. By the time Dennis turns and sees the creature coming, it has already drawn several of its appendages back to strike. Dennis tries to raise his gun, but it's knocked away by one of the tentacles. A second tentacle strikes, and Dennis is spun around and thrown off balance by the attack. Dennis catches himself before falling. A third tentacle wraps around Dennis's forearm, and I can see it squeeze, tightening instantly. The tip of the appendage passes clean through his hand, its blood-soaked tip poking out through his palm. Dennis's face grimaces with pain as he tries to wrench his arm free, but the creature's tentacle has his hand speared, like a nail through wood. In a moment of dark clarity, I realize that I can free him with a clean shot at the monster's tentacle, but it will likely mean blowing Dennis's hand off. Dennis, I yell over the creature's high-pitched static sound. Can you get free? I have a clear shot, maybe. No, Dennis gasps as the creature tosses him around by his hand like a puppet. Don't shoot, I can get free. I can't tell if he's right, but the other monsters are starting to encircle him. I need to act fast. Wait for Dennis to get away or shoot off his hand. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I could try to wait for him to get free, but I feel like he's gonna get swarmed and just be torn apart before my eyes. If I shoot off his hand, that'll likely shoot off the tentacle as well, cause the creature to fall back in pain, and allow him to get back into the door. I'm sorry, Dennis. I gotta take the chance. I gotta shoot your hand off. You decided to take Dennis's hand to save him. If I don't take the shot while I have it, they are going to kill him. In a last-ditch effort, I try getting a good shot on the monster, but there is none. I'll hurt Dennis even worse if I try. I take aim and fire off a shot. The shot lands perfectly and results in a lot of blood and screams from both Dennis and the creature. Dennis's hand disappears in a spray of red, and the monster's appendage simply fades away. It literally seems to wink out of existence. The creature screeches while Dennis hits the floor, wailing in pain. The reality of what I have done sets in and nearly paralyzes me. Get him, Amy says. I'll cover you. I nod, still reeling from the sight of what I have done to Dennis. I stumble out of the door. Amy is true to her word. She fires off a few rounds into the approaching monsters as I make it to Dennis. I grab a hold of him with my good arm. I drag him backwards as fast as I can, nearly following Dowling in the process. When I reach the doorway, Amy reaches down and helps me drag his body the final few feet into the room. She manages to pull off another shot, and when I look to see what she has hit, I see another dozen or so of the monsters. Dennis is writhing in pain, and when he looks up to see me, he is sneering. "You crazy asshole," he screams. He shudders violently, sweat and tears coursing down his pale face. Amy slams the door behind us. Finally, we are inside the room, hopefully safe within what looks to be an isolation chamber of sorts. Along the frame, a little electrical lock beeps as the door is secured. Holy shit, that was intense. And that is a major understatement. This is so well written. I can't stop going through this. I want to finish it right now. I want to find out what happens. All right, let's look at our choices here. Self-control. You and 49% of players shot to weaken the creature, not to kill it. Keep them at bay. You and 41% of players distracted the creature instead of shooting it. Weapon of choice. You and 57% of players took the handgun instead of the shotgun. Judgment call. You and 57% of players disobeyed Dennis's wishes not to shoot, causing him to lose his hand. I mean, that was a really shit situation to be in. Like I said, it's either damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's either we trust him and his strength to try to get free by himself and end up just seeing him get torn apart in front of our eyes, or we take off his hand, help him. He is going to be in a lot of pain, lose a lot of blood, but he'll still be alive. I mean, that sucks, but I mean, it's the lesser of two evils, the way I'm looking at it. This is insane. I am purely enthralled by this. I just want to keep going and see where this ends. But, all right, we're going to pick it up next time with the final chapter, Chapter 5, and see how all this concludes, because this story is insane. And it's the only way I really know how to describe it. It's my go-to word. I can't think of any other way how to describe this. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to pause it right here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then thrust your mouth upon that like button. Keep playing it awesome, and I will see you all on my next adventure.